Hello, everyone. This is going to be the first podcast that I'm going to be doing with Elvan. This is going to cover basically everything that does with the aerial industry. So we're going to be talking multi-rotors, the industry, competitions, freestyle, whatever we can think of. In the first part of our podcast, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wrapping up coverage of F3 Expo. I know it's about a month ago, and I've already done a lot of coverage of it, but I have Ivan here, who I'm going to let himself introduce himself in here in a second, because he was actually one of the judge there, and he's got a lot of good commentary and a lot of thoughts to convey. So, Ivan, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll get this started.
Hi, I'm Melvin Wilson. I got into flying RC helicopters in 1992. I've been flying FPV for the past 5 years, racing for about a year and a half now. I'm honored to have been participating in the Drone Nationals competition and the Thunderdrum 500. I love to help other pilots, and I love seeing the races and the hobby progress into a sport. And I love my sponsors, Team Pulse and Team Heli Direct. Thank you. And I hope to continue to do this with you.
Okay, sounds great. Just a quick intro for myself. My name is Wai Lam. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and I basically run the league down here, and professionally, we also do a lot of aerial stuff in terms of renting equipment to businesses and companies. So that's basic introduction of the two of us. We're just gonna go right ahead and jump into F3 Expo. So I've already done a little bit of commentary about the conference itself. So Yvonne, what did you think of the conference and everything surrounding that?
It was a great opportunity to establish some awareness for the hobbies. You know, there's all different new industries coming up: drone design, implementation, aerial photography, inspection, and farming, of course, racing. So, and that's the big one that I'm really interested in because I think in the future there's a lot more competitions coming up and bigger competitions in the future for the world.
That's true. I mean, when I was down there and I was just walking around that area, there were a lot of businesses that I've never heard of. So I got a chance to really talk to them, to network with people. Like, I met the Detroit Motor guys. I didn't really realize how big they were until I actually met them, and they're really enthusiastic and they're really into it. So,
Yeah, those guys, man, those guys, they designed a frame for the F3 Expo. You know, I bought one, and I'll keep it probably forever. You know, just as a commemoration for that whole event.
oh,
Um,
that's cool.
but there was a lot of companies there. You know, they had a lot of things set up. You know, there was classes for kids and all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you had aspirations to be an aerial photography guy, you missed out if you wasn't there. You know, there was lots of information on that and lots of information on inspection, bridges, and I know up here we have a couple of guys that do windmills. Every once in a while, I get a chance to go with them to do windmill inspections. So it's lots of stuff that you could have been there to fall in, whether you wanted to design something or you wanted to use something that was already designed, because there's hundreds of thousands of different drone designs out there right now. I mean, and more are arriving every day. So don't be scared if you see something that looks like something else. Because there's just that many out there.
So, speaking of that, was there any one person or any peoples or groups that really stood out to you? Because for me, I actually got to meet some of the people that put on Drone World, so I got a chance to really talk to and actually get to know some of the people that are really moving and shaking this industry in terms of racing and where it's going. How about you?
Yeah, I got a chance to talk with Chris Braun and Cynthia, I believe her name was. She's the lady that was responsible for um, the insurance and the venue and securing she's the promoter. So it was, you see these people and they have such great high aspirations for our hobby, which turned into a sport. And they believe that they can make it what we see it as in the future, So I'm glad that there's a lot of people that are starting to come up. I mean, there is some other places like up here. We have one indoor arena right now, and you know, there's other places we could go fly and do an indoor thing, but they're not ready for it. They're just not ready for it. They're not ready for it. And they're too worried about the public safety, where we can do things for that. So
Understand. All right, so that's kind of just wrapping up the conference. It was actually rather light, but like I said, it was a good networking time. We definitely got to get a chance to meet a lot of cool people. So let's go ahead and get into the racing. So first one I want to talk about is the. Hold on a second. Of course, the phone always goes off. Every time the phone goes off. All right, so the
let me
Thunder.
take a hint from that.
Yeah. So the Thunderdrum 500. Okay, this is an enduro style race,
Oh yeah.
And you got to participate in it, so you got a really interesting perspective. Talk to me about it, man. Talk to me.
Oh man, it was phenomenal. Being there was Ready Made, there was Horizon, there was Voodoo, there was uh, Crave FPV, there was all these teams, just showed up out of nowhere. Detroit Motor, Ready Made took the trophy, and Shin Drones and all of them. They did a great job as a team to whoop all of our butts, because they did an excellent job. The some of that whooping came because they were prepared. They literally came with more than one ship to fly, and they were ready to race, and tons of batteries and backups and this, that, and the other. The teams that came prepared in that aspect is the ones that truly ended up stealing the show. It was they came with lightweight ships ready to run long distances, and they were ready. But being involved in that race when it first took off, when the clock went off, and we hit that first turn, the team captain, our team captain, took off and hit that first corner, and I'm riding along with him, through my goggles, ready to switch over, and he goes around the first lap, and I'm like, dude, what's it feel like? And he was like, dude, I got this, and I was like, I felt like, it's like you get that pat on your back, like, yeah, he's got this, right? And then you put on the goggles, and your ship takes off, and you hit the throttle, and you're like, holy crap, these guys are hauling ass. Wait a minute, I got to step up my game, So you getting into the corners, and you people are passing you, and you start passing people back, and you're going around, and in my case, I had a failure, and I went in hard.
Bleacher time, huh?
Oh, and you're flying around these bleachers, normally you sit in these things, and they're built so that no other fan can rip them up and beat you to death with them, right? That's what
Yeah.
how they secure it. So when you hit one with a quadcopter, it's like running out and hitting a baseball with a semi truck. It's like,
Well, they're definitely built to last.
Yeah. So like, I'm like looking for my stuff. Like the chick, so like the person, there was a girl that was in the stands, and they had like a whole bunch of people there retrieving stuff if you went down in certain sections, because you had to have like multiple people because the sections are so large,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's a professional football stadium, so
Right. This ain't high school, down the street from me. The elementary school where you got one set of row, two rows, and that's it. Um, so she's looking for this thing, and I'm like, "What's taking her so long?" And she comes back with this box, shoe box, and I'm like, "What's up with the shoe boxes?" It's like, I think I got all your stuff.
the 12 pieces that it's in.
Yeah, and I'm like, I look, I'm like, okay, thank you. And now I'm like defeated because I'm thinking this ship's like completely destroyed, right? If she's bringing it to me in this box and she's like 10 feet above me, and as it's being lowered to the where I can reach it because I'm short,
Yeah.
as I'm like, I reach up and I'm tippy toe and she drops it in my hand and I bring it down and I look down and I go, wow, all the props are there. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Where's my camera?
That's gone.
Where's my receiver? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, here's the VTX, but where's the antenna? Oh, there's no antenna. Okay, I'm out. I'm out. There's nothing I can do. I can't find my receiver. I can't get back in the air. So I run back over and I get back in the line, and now we done turned our team into from 3 pilots into 2 pilots and 2 helpers. We had 3 pilots and a helper. One of our pilots that was having problems with his ship, so he decided to be the pit man. Which was a great idea in the long run. You know,
Pits are
um,
important, yeah.
Right, because the pit is important, and we needed to have somebody designated in that area. And that's one of the things, as you build a team in the future, you know, you have to start thinking about these things as a racing entity and functioning as a team and not just individuals, because the Thunderdrum 500, so 100 laps, 5 teams doing 100, trying to do 100 laps apiece, right? And it can get tiring after a while for one person, and when you designate each other's people's positions, they have responsibilities minimize the chances of errors, right? So
Yeah.
somebody won't grab your 3S battery and slap it on my 4S system, and I go to take off and I'm like, oh, why is the power not there?
Hey,
Yeah.
that brings up a good point, right? Because a lot of teams right now, they're just made up of all pilots. But really, as the sport grows, you're going to need pilots that are, or people that are dedicated towards building, people that are dedicated towards the pits, people maybe, dedicated just to, like, make sure the video works, right? Because it's so important.
Right. I mean, you can't see, you can't fly. I mean, that's number one. I mean, that's like having a flight controller, right? I mean, if you can't see, you can't fly. Without a flight controller, there's no action to control the ship. So, it's like ridiculous. But that's you're going to have to start looking at it like that. I mean,
It's true.
if this is truly going to become NASCAR's Formula One type racing, where there's an intricate course and there's 5 or 6 guys running 2 football field lengths field at 80, 90 miles an hour. I mean, soon we're going to break that. We all understand that this the speeds that we're attaining right now will not be the limiting factor right now. I mean, as it
It's
is
true.
right now, right? In the future, that we're looking at higher speeds. We're looking at 120 miles an hour, more sooner than anything.
It's
So
true.
I believe we're looking at 120 miles an hour sooner than we're looking at PLL lock video.
It's true. Well, actually, speaking of that subject, really the story of F3 Expo in terms of racing was video, right? Because like
Right.
right from the onset, everybody was having video problems
Everybody, you
because
know.
it was either the transmitter was too powerful,
Mm-hmm.
all the metal and concrete, or it's just random people. Like they'll be outside and they'll turn on and it'll still affect your video because they're blasting at such high, milliwatts that it can still affect your video.
Right. You got guys coming flying in who are used to flying around the neighborhood with 600 milliwatts. You know, I mean, nobody, the normal guy when he goes to the field, he's running the biggest transmitter he's got. You know, that can fit that ship. He's not running 25 milliwatts like I'm trying to do. You know, I'm trying to affect the least amount of people as possible when I take off.
Right.
You know, and so if I lose performance at distance, it's then I don't go that direction, right? Instead of causing more of an issue where that guy now he needs a 600 just so he can not be bothered by me when I'm flying around. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
and then it's so on and so on and so on. And now we got a big old hash trash, a big bubble somewhere around my house, right? And there's 5 or 6 guys fighting for airtime, and occasionally 2 of us end up going down because they see somebody else's video, right? So
Stuff.
video is very important, and there was a lot of issues, but they seem to got them worked out, and it seems that now we're seeming to start to work these things out. You know,
It's true. In fact, you and I were talking, in the background, in which companies are really coming out with technology to really help us with that problem, try to make the frequencies better or give us more control with them, right? So,
right. You know, there's they're trying to narrow the bandwidth. You know, that's the big key, right? Is to get rid of the adjacent noise, to get more adjacent noise rejection, adjacent channel rejection, so that channel 1 and channel 2 are not really bleeding on each other. The signal is there, but you're only your receiver station knows that this is channel
exactly.
1 or this is channel 2, not, oh, I'm getting a little noise from channel 1 and a little noise, let me display it all. We need
Yeah.
we need something more centered, and I know it's a big issue. So and what's really cool is about this sport is a lot of people in this sport that have controlling factors in it. A lot of the main manufacturers, they actually fly. You know,
That's
that,
nice.
that's. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of guys that make tennis shoes that don't run. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's guys that make basketballs that don't play basketball. They just physicists, or whatever. There's a lot of guys that get into car racing that have never been on the track, and but they have brilliant ideas how to solve some of our issues. But in this case, we have more manufacturers that are actually pilots than I think almost any other industry out there right now.
Hopefully it stays that way. And
I would love it to stay that way.
yeah, and I already shared with you the two features that I would love to have on any type of transmitter or ground station. Is one, to be able to configure my VTX remotely, and two, to be able to power it off remotely. Because like those are the two biggest hassles when it comes to organizing an event, is trying to manage all those videos from
Mm-hmm.
everybody who's bringing like all sorts of stuff. It's like, never heard of this brand before, and I don't even know what frequency you're on. Do you know what your frequency you're on? It's like, no, I don't. It's like, great. Okay, so now we're going to fumble through 40 channels to try to figure out what's going on.
Right. And, eventually, there'll be every race organizer will have a spectrum analyzer, and you'll go, okay, turn on. Oh, you're on blah 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 blah. You need to be moved. You need to move 2 channels over. Blah 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 blah. Right, to get you in the right ballpark. But those things are expensive
They are.
for us. A spectrum analyzer can be $2,000, a good one.
I know. It's
And
very expensive.
there's others out there that we can buy that are not as easy to deal with. That's the other thing. They're not as easy to learn how to use. So, but frequency is always going to be a big issue with racing, until we get more narrow banded. We can get more people on the band, um, in a small area. If it all comes down to the receiver. The ground station is the one that decides how well the system runs with the rest of the units. If it picks up everything. Here's the thing that's kind of funny. Back in 1980, if you looked on the side of a TV, it said, this TV is designed to reject all interference, blah, 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 right? You look on the side of your TV now, it says, this TV is designed to accept all interference, all, you know, and to do that, that's how you get some of the digital signal, right? Is to accept all of the signal, right? To get as much of it in and be able to discern what's digital and what's analog so that you can make a picture, right? Exactly. And right now we're accepting all that in and trying to gather a picture from that. And occasionally it's 2 channels. Sometimes it's 2 channels over. Sometimes it's 8 channels over, depending on if some guy shows up in the field to race with a 2-watt 5.8 on Fat Shark channels. You know what I mean? I've seen it, and it can be a pain in the butt.
It can be, but we can only hope technology is going to get better and more affordable for us, because we both know that they're working on it and they're eventually going to go
They're working on
digital.
it. I
But it's
promise you,
like,
they're working on it.
but hopefully, the biggest thing is price, right?
Right.
It's I think that the professional organized events will get it first because they can afford those and they need
Oh
them
yeah.
first, and
Right.
then hopefully it'll be a trickle down effect to where we'll get it as on the hobby side eventually, which
Well,
usually is the case.
right. But usually, what happens is one of our guys opens the door for the commercial stuff. You know what I mean? So with all of these entrepreneurs or business owners that are pilots, there's a lot of input coming in. You look at a lot of these companies, they have lots and lots of test pilots in the background you never hear about.
It's true.
um,
Yeah.
um, it's like you never know that guy can write a report on a spectrum analyzer and how to use it properly. Because you never hear of him doing anything like that, but he's a valued asset to some other company,
Definitely.
you know.
Definitely.
And they realize that, and you never realize that. So you got to also remember that while you sitting around learning stuff and progressing through this hobby, that there's other guys out there that may have some other ideas that might intrigue you.
It's true. So, just moving on, one
Mm-hmm.
last question before we move off the Thunderdrum 500 was, what do you think that this is a type of race that's going to actually get popular, and that people are going to be interested in watching?
I think the hardest part is trying to pass on what is a great lap. You know what I mean? That's going to be a hard thing to do unless you can show a timer, right? So there's gonna need some type of audience interaction, or we live in the world of CGI, right? I
Hmm.
mean, Star Wars is out in day or two, and this it's a CGI world. So soon we'll have some CGI to go with our hobby that'll help you explain things to some of the audiences what's going on. Like, it's hard to see a 200 millimeter ship going around a football stadium. Very, very hard to see, and you can either see it two ways. You can either ride along with the pilot, or you can try to eyeball it with some binoculars, which is going to be a but. You're not going to get good. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's
Yeah.
extremely hard to
Yeah.
follow a 200 millimeter quad around that football field. It was very, very hard, but having goggles made it a lot easier.
Yeah, actually, you'll notice that any of the people that actually show up at these events right now, I mean, the real hardcore enthusiasts, they all bring their own goggles with it because
Oh yeah.
they'll all fly along with whatever pilot that they want to. Really, what it comes down to is having a system which can pick up one of the it could be in the future it might not be quads, right? To be able to pick out that ship easily, either through LEDs or some sort of signaling system, so that the audience can track it, and then they can put on their goggles easily and be able to see, oh, that's what's going on with that quad. And then really the other thing is that and I actually got a chance to talk to the person who actually thought up of the Enduro race. They also need to kind of, this is kind of opinion, right? Because I like the fact that you can just do balls to the wall, anything, but at the same time, I still want an interesting race, so I still want to limit, like what they can do, so that the race stays competitive, right? We
Right,
don't
right,
have,
right, right. I mean,
otherwise it's not interesting anymore.
so yeah, some guys got 6S systems. They can run at half throttle what I run at full throttle. You know what I mean? There's guys out there that have that equipment, and it's a disadvantage for me because I can't get to that speed. I can't keep up with that guy. I mean, he can straight flat out run me in the straights, right? So if you organize the races so that like some of them are saying 4-inch limit, right? There's 3S limit, and then 4S limit, then 5S limit, then 6S limit. I don't know if that's going to be the only designations. I mean, I believe it's going to be beginner class, beginner pro, like that, or an amateur, or, there's going to be more than just 3S, 4S, 5S, 6S, or 3S, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch. There's going to be a lot more categories than that. There's going to be some categories I may not be able to race in because I raced into a pro class at one time. You know what I mean? Those things are going to come into play. I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, it would be unrealistic to put pilots that's been flying for 2 years racing on the pro circuit, and with guys that haven't even seen the pro race yet.
Actually, you know what? That's a good segue into the individual races. So we'll actually go ahead and move on to that subject.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because like really, I watched a lot of the individual races because our booth was actually right there. So like literally, I could just look into, I can look into the race anytime I want. And
Right.
that was one of the things that the people that came that weren't sponsored, weren't considered pro pilots, they struggled with, is that they didn't really get a whole lot of chances to fly because they had to climb their way up, and
Right.
it's really hard to climb their way up because like everybody came for the big, either the Thunderdrum or the freestyle, and they're all really good, and you're just not going to beat them. So without having their own class, they
Mm-hmm.
really had to climb an impossible ladder, for that event.
Yeah, I mean, it, you know, it's hard to step out there as it is to put yourself on the line to compete, right? That's
Oh
a
yeah.
hard thing to do, right? First, that's the first hard thing. Then, you know, to know that there's no way you can keep up with the Charpoos or the the Voodoo team Voodoo,
You're right.
they these teams come. Some of these teams came to make a name for themselves, or to put their foot out in the middle of the road and let everybody know, hey, we are here, right? You
Exactly.
know, so they came with their fastest, their hardest, they most aggressive setups. And if you have only been racing for like the last couple of months, and yeah, you've maybe ran 1, 2, or 3 little short races, you know, and you're happy and everybody was excited, you may not be prepared to go sit in the line with these guys, you know, because
They were
they
fast.
they came to whoop the butt, you know. And same thing with the ready meat guys, Joe and them. They I see them running, you know. I got past. I'm not ashamed to say it, you know. I got past. I passed a couple people back. I was, you know, cruising for
You
trying
got
to
tired
save
of
my
being passed, don't lie.
yeah. I was trying to save my batteries because I came you know, I only had 15 batteries that day, right? And if I'm supposed to do 25 laps and I got like three batteries, I mean 3 laps per battery wide open, right? I'm I'm gonna be real close to my 25 minimum, right?
You're right.
And I was like, I'm just gonna cruise the first couple of laps and then I'm gonna open it up at the end, which in the second race we were in was pretty fun to do, you know, because there was that point where I said, you know what, I didn't. It's time for me to step up the game, right? I hit that corner and bust loose, you know, and so it those things you just you're not gonna feel confident coming out to a race where you got pro pilots showing up, you know. I mean,
Tough.
I remember when I was a little kid and I was racing RC cars and I show up at a track and they got these guys pulling up, not with their moms and dads like me. They got a truck pull up, you know,
Yep.
bowling truck. You know, the bowling truck pulls up and they piles of stuff coming out, you know, batteries and trays of batteries and charging systems. And I'm like, me and my one charger, you know,
You gotta start somewhere, and it's tough to put you out there.
you know,
Yeah.
mom, I don't know, man. These guys got like hundreds of batteries, you know, and mom, I need more batteries, you know. And it seems to be that's a big issue, right? I mean, that's always been an issue through our lives. I mean, racing RC is I need more batteries.
Need more batteries. Go through a lot of batteries.
Through a lot of batteries. Sometimes you poke holes in batteries. I did one this morning,
It's easy too, right? Oh man, life
especially
was.
flying in the rain.
Are you crazy? You
I
flying
was
in the rain?
flying. Gotta
It,
fly sometime, man. Can't let Mother Nature hold you down.
all right, all right. So, did you get a chance to do any of the individual races? Or give me your
No,
thoughts.
we when, you know, being realistic, the bomb thing kind of put a damper on a lot of thought process, so that we were trying to have fun and enjoy ourselves, and then, you know, somebody says, oh, time for you to come home, you know, and you got to go home. And you know, and it was crazy because, you know, I saw those guys getting lined up, and I saw the video issues they were having, you know, with being in that far building way
The
down there,
concrete, yeah,
you know,
concrete basement, yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, just go over to building A, and that's where it's at, and yeah, it's just go over there. It says just cross over the yeah. They meant just cross over, walk half a mile down this way, go through an elevator, walk another half mile around this way, then come back a quarter mile, and you're really not that far away. You know,
It's a big place.
it's a monster place. I mean, it was where we were at. You guys was at, you know, was a large area. I mean, I was kind of like, wow, this is pretty large for an area. I mean, that whole bottom area was probably 4 or 5 football fields wide, right?
It was.
And it there was every they had the conferences there. They had the children classes there. They had some guys showing off some electric skateboards there. Remember, and that was all cool stuff. That far into there, it's just that with the frequency we're using for video at this time, because now they're coming out with 3,300 megahertz, right? And for video, and that's going to probably more likely give us another 16 channels.
I
So,
hope so.
so realistically, that means we'll have 3 pilots on 5.8, maybe 4 pilots on 3.3. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because I just saw like an 800 milliwatt transmitter for 3.3. It's like godly. Right off the bat, you got to start with something like unbelievable, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they should have made 25 milliwatt ones first.
Hey,
Right?
you go on the professional side, right? I was looking at it, and they had a 1500 milliwatt 5.8
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
professional rigs. I'm like, dude, like that'll knock out every channel of
I
any pilot
actually own
racing.
one. I actually own one.
So if you want to annoy your racer pilots, you plug that up, you wipe
No,
out four channels.
yeah, I could be that guy. Anyone could be that guy. I don't think anybody really wants to be that guy.
No,
That's you
that's a
know,
horrible thing.
I no, I mean, I use it when I go out in the woods and we're doing a video flying around in high tree area or something like that, way out in the woods. That's what I use mine for.
Yep.
Um,
No, you need that. When you're getting into
yeah,
the
I
thick
mean,
of
like
things.
because I do search and rescue too. So it's like I'll go out and help search. There's a couple of pilots up here in Portland. We're involved in the search and rescue, and we get the phone call when somebody is missing. So, and we decide whether or not it's viable weather for us to go up. You know, um, but
Cool.
this there's a purpose for that. There's a purpose for that. It's not just for flying around the neighborhood field or you know sitting putting it on my RC truck. There's a
Okay.
purpose for that.
So, getting back on track,
Yeah.
what did you think of the individual races? I know you didn't get a chance to stay long because of what happened with the Paris bombings and all. Did you meet anybody special, or did you actually, what did you think of the race overall?
Well, I think the track was really tight and
It
it
was.
was meant to be fast. There's a fast track. It had like 8 turns in it, 8 or 9 turns in it, and there were you know um, back in the old days when we used to ride dirt bikes, it was whap 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 whap. That's how you went around this course. Is
Yeah.
whap 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 whap. Maybe a little whap, and then you.
Just bump
Because
the throttle.
I saw a couple of guys hit that wall way over on the end,
Yeah.
and then they had a couple of guys go through the net too. So
Yep.
that's how fast they were going. In that short period of time across that little course. It was pretty intricate, but I didn't race it. I saw Charpu's run. I saw Aaron Shell's run, and the Voodoo team. I saw their run, and it all looked good. So it just was part-time interference, I guess. It,
Stuff.
it
Yep.
I guess they had 3 or 4 guys running at one time for a
Yeah.
couple of laps, and then it got bad again, which that's
That's life.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nature. I mean, when we went to Drones Nationals, we had issues. We're in Florida, they had issues. They fixed them, but they had issues. They tried to start off with a different system, trying to keep the cost down, and found out that all of those receivers were crap. So it's like, you know, Um, we video is our key, and like I said before, without it, we can't see, we can't fly, and we got to work on that. But the
Okay,
racing was fun.
it was a lot of fun. So before we wrap up this section, you told me a funny story of what happened to you at the airport. You want to share that with our audience?
Oh, you mean
Yeah, you
okay?
know what I mean.
So like okay, so this is crazy. We get on the airplane, right? We're leaving here, and we like box up all our batteries because we're trying to keep minimize the issues with the TSA. You know, there's police officers walking around with submachine guns and stuff in the airport. Um, you know, so you know, it's like okay, yeah, that makes sense. You know, I can get my batteries later. You know, I'll just take my radio with me, right? So you get on the plane, and I'm putting the bag up underneath the seat in front of me, and I fly Spectrum radio, you know, and
Yeah.
it, you know, as I'm pushing it down, I must have turned it on, right? And I guess being in my backpack, I flipped one of my mode switches, right? So like with a Spectrum radio is like when you flip one of the mode switches and you turn it on, the first 3 seconds the radio shuts off. It doesn't transmit nothing, but it starts beep and vibrating and beep 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 beep. And people on the plane start looking over at me like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" You know, and I'm like trying to get in the bag to get in there to turn off the radio because I just realized I got the battery still in the radio, all the
You
other
forgot.
batteries in the box, but I still got this. So I'm like trying to get in there, and you know, we just got on the plane. So like, you know, when I get in, I just sit down and I do what I'm supposed to do. So nobody has to tell me to do anything, right? Um, so I'm putting the bags underneath and sitting in there and getting set up. And now I'm trying to get the bag. I can't get it because it's stuck between my legs and the seat. And I got two people on my side and I can't get my bag out. And it's still beeping. It's still beeping. People are starting to get annoyed because they can hear it. And they're looking around. And this dude turns around and he's like looking down. And I'm like, dude, my radio is on. I'm going to turn it off as soon as I can get in there, you know, because I got this thing packed with shirts and, you know,
Yeah.
trying to keep my radio from getting broken because we know what they do with our luggage.
Yep.
Anyway, so like finally get my hand in there and it's like I'm looking at people and it's like I see this dude coming my way and it might be the dude you don't never want to talk to on the plane. You know what I mean? So like I fight click and it's off and then I'm like, dude, I forgot to take the battery out of my radio. I forgot to take the battery out of my radio. And the good thing is my one of my bosses was sitting. He was like, "Oh, Elvan, you know, you should have took the battery out of your radio." Kind of made it look smaller than it was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kind of the issue. You know, like you shouldn't have did that. You know, and I'm like,
You're lucky you're not arrested for being a
oh,
terrorist.
right, because that's all you need is to get on a national airlines and have something beeping and vibrating.
You were so lucky, I swear.
You know, people have been shot for a lot less. You know what I'm saying? So I was just thankful that I got in there and turned it off.
I love that story, man. That's a very funny story. Not in the context that it was because it was a tragic thing
Yeah.
that happened in Paris, but
Right.
like everybody was on high alert.
Oh
I
yeah.
I got a call from my family. He's like, "Be careful in the stadium." And like literally, when I was driving out that night, I passed like 6 cops all around the stadium, and I'm like, "Yeah, they've really upped security everywhere."
Well, you
And
know they had that bombing incident at
yeah.
that stadium.
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't even know that. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, they had an incident at that stadium we was at.
That's
So
true. I didn't even
that's
think
why
about
we
that.
got nervous. That's exactly why we got super nervous. We were like, okay, wait a minute. And you know, because all the wives know, you know, when when the husband is in can be in trouble, the wife will call up and remind you about a whole bunch of stuff you forgot.
It's time for you to come home and do all this stuff.
Right. Like, hey, did you remember a couple of years ago there was a bomb threat over there? Blah blah blah. Oh yeah. So you make sure you pack up your stuff and hurry up and get home. And you're like,
It's an order.
okay, yeah. Hey, did you remember? And then you start passing it on, and everybody's like, oh yeah, let's hurry up and get our stuff. Let's get on the plane and get the hell out of here. Then you miss the flight because you overslept.
All right. This is a good stopping point for us before we actually go into the Masters of Freestyle, which you got to be a judge of. So we'll be right back and we'll discuss that.